Good afternoon, everybody. Today, I want to talk about a little bit of my past and a little bit of my background. So today, I'm going to talk about my diagnosis and my mental health and this little guy right here who's been a big part of my recovery. So a few years ago, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, with narcissistic tendencies. Basically, it's hard for me to show emotion, smile, laugh. It doesn't mean I don't have it inside. I grew up in a household where the men didn't really show emotion or cry. Mental illness is a real thing, from the smallest of the spectrum to the largest of the spectrum. I've said this many times before. It doesn't matter how severe or how little you have it. It still can cause problems. Whether you have symptoms once a week, twice a month, it doesn't matter. It's still something that people have to deal with and things like that. My depression, it comes and goes. Sometimes I can deal with it. And my dog, Captain Jack Sparrow, he has always been an emotional support dog for me. I can tell him anything I want, and I ain't gotta worry about it getting out. I deal with anxiety. I have control issues. I have to be in control of everything I do, down to the last letter. And my anxiety is different than some other people's. My anxiety is more of the what ifs, that the possibility of something bad happening while I'm in public is what drives my anxiety. And what I mean by that is being in a place and something happens excuse me, and something happens, like a fight breaks out or somebody starts shooting or stabbing or a riot breaks out. That's what scares me, is not knowing and not being able to control my situation. It's tough. There's a lot of times I have to put things aside to do daily things because I know what has to be done. I know it has to be done for my family, so I make sure it gets done. And sometimes I hold things inside. Holding them inside is not good. I experienced that for a while. I held things in years ago for like 4 or 5 years, and I kind of burst at the seams and tried to harm myself because of it. So now I try not to hold things. Like if I feel something building up, I try to talk about it, or I try to find an outlet to get it out my system. The borderline personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies is something that kind of made me different, made me read into my life different. It makes sense, you know. It's hard for me to show emotion. It does, like I said, it doesn't mean I don't have it. Doesn't mean that I don't have inside of me caring. I'm not gonna say that. It's just hard for me to smile sometimes. It's hard for me to cry. It's hard for me to show empathy. It's hard for me to just have emotions, period. I don't know how to explain it too well because I'm not an expert, but I do occasionally, you know. I've been trying to work on it. It's tough. If I could, I would stay home and order everything. If I didn't have to, you know, if I had enough money to build me a home gym, things like that. The only thing I wouldn't have delivered is fresh meat and produce because I don't trust people to pick that stuff out. And yes, I do have trust issues. It goes along with my control issues. A couple of months ago, before the pandemic, my neighbor had a friend that needed help moving a mattress, but I had to back out because the anxiety of me being in the passenger seat on a 35-40 minute drive one way and then one way back, it scared the crap out of me. It's real hard to live when you have control issues. It's hard for me to be in a passenger seat. It's hard for me to let people drive me around. But I've been dealing with this for a while now, and it sucks. But I think when you finally can find out what issues you have, sometimes it takes longer for people to find out what's wrong with them than others. But I think once you finally understand, it's easier. It's easier to understand if you know what's wrong. I enjoy staying at home. I really do. Like I said many times, if I could, I'd stay home 90% of the time. But I know I have to do things. I have to go to the gym at least twice a week or 3 times a week, but I choose to go to the gym. But it's easy for me to do the gym thing because if there's too many people there, I can always turn around and go back later, you know, or I can just choose to, you know, get in and get out. It's hard to do, but it's possible. And I really didn't understand growing up until I found out I had these issues. Because I always had to do things my way. It was my way or no way. And I went through a lot of relationships where, you know, they didn't work out because of my way. Luckily, I met a woman that basically, as long as it's not legal or going to harm somebody, she pretty much leaves all the decisions up to me. And that's what works for us. Yes, I do listen to her feedback and her input before a decision is made. And that's the thing, you know, just because I have the final decision doesn't mean that I don't take into consideration her opinions because the decision that I make most of the time will matter towards our future. But mental health it's scary if you don't know about what's wrong with you or anything like that. I never knew growing up that I had the issues that I have now. Maybe if I would have known back then, maybe I would have been able to get a jump start on, trying to figure it out, the process of handling it better. Maybe I would have had better relationships because of it. I don't know, but I don't live in the what ifs. I don't live in the what I could have done different in the past. How would that make me a different person today? Because you can't let that reflect your future. You can't say, well, I wonder if I would have did this, how my life would have turned out. You can't dwell on that. I mean, yeah, you can mention it once in a while, but you can't let that all the time be like, oh, no, because you never know how your journey is going to be. But learning about what's wrong with me helped me understand how I was as a teenager and a kid growing up. It helped me look back at my past and help me understand the things that I've done. It helped me understand why I was the way I was. Can't change the past. You can only fix things that have happened to you. But mental health, again, it's from the smallest, some people that only suffer from a small anxiety attacks to the people that deal with it every day, every hour. It is a big issue. And I had a professor at Nichols that told his class, his students, that you can have a bad day and then you can probably find 5 or 6 people and go down the line, and each one of them is having a worse day than the person that you before. And then the same thing with a good day. You could probably talk to 5 or 6 people and each one of them has a better day than the other. It's not about, to me, it's not about whose mental illness is worse than person A or person B or person C, because people that suffer from mental illness, it's not trying to compare whose situation is worse than the other or whose situation is better than the other. It's all about learning from, the diagnosis, learning from the progress of getting better, and learning. It's a learning process. I've seen situations where kids with autism have lived a wonderful life. Kids, that have other mental illness, they've gotten married and they're able to have a life and take care of themselves. It's possible. It's not impossible. I don't know how to explain the other, like when we were growing up, they called it retarded, but I don't like that word. I know there's other words for it, but everybody's unique and different when it comes to mental health. You have, like I said, it's not about whose mental health is worse than the other person, because it's like comparing apples to oranges. Nobody's situation is better or worse. It's all about learning from the diagnosis. And once you get diagnosed with something, it's all about learning how to cope with it, how to handle it, seeking out people that have had similar diagnoses and similar things to help with that. Again, like I said, I'm no expert, far from an expert. So if anybody has any questions, comments, anything that they want to talk about, feel free to email our channel or leave it in a comment. I'm always interested in hearing people's feedback, hearing people's talking. And that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. I've never really talked much about this to an audience, so this is me opening up and trying to be a little bit more upfront about myself. Like, subscribe, share, questions, comments, and that's about it. Y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and I will see y'all next week.